Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Hopefully you had a nice break and that the discussions were engaging and valuable for you. We just want to encourage you to continue to have the conversation at home beyond our time together this morning and throughout the week. Have them in your workplaces. Part of this work of sort of interrupting and I've said this before, I'll say it again, is to create the space to have this conversation. And so I'm really happy to be part of this morning's presentation. I'm going to introduce Tim Olofsson and Kim Griffin to present their research titled, Are We Ready? Through Albertans' Eyes, Consumers and the Future. And so kicking off the introduction is Tim Olofsson, the co-founder of Stone Olofsson, a research-based consulting firm in Calgary. Tim's cool and collected ability to listen and then provide astute practical advice is second to none. We think it's because he's old. He's nothing surprises him after 25 years in the research and consulting business. Regardless, he has an instinctive ability to find creative solutions on the spot. He's the kind of person you want at the table when your organization is under pressure, when you're the decision maker upon whom so much depends, when you need someone to come up with a completely different way of thinking about an issue, or when you just need a sounding board. He's an excellent blend of researcher and trusted consultant, concise, perceptive, thorough, and unflappable. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you. Sounds so odd when it's read, but.
And next we have Kim. When you meet Kim, you'll notice she talks fast. She's very clever, she smiles a lot, and doesn't miss a thing. Bring your most challenging and problematic issues forward, and you'll get an approachable, knowledgeable business partner who will be more than happy to raise the bar on what you thought research could accomplish. She can get her mind wrapped around psychographic segmentation just as easily as qualitatively understanding the modern home buyer. In a sentence, she gets it. So welcome to Tim and Kim. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. It's almost like our communications firm wrote those, so it was interesting listening to them for the first time as they're read. But we, as researchers, I think we've got 20 minutes to present kind of the future of what consumers are doing. As researchers, we work in multiple industries across North America. We could probably spend the next 3 hours or so going through stuff and showing you slide after chart after chart. But as Stephen Hawking once said, for every chart you show, you lose half your audience. So I'm happy to say that over the next 15 to 20 minutes, we're not going to show you a single graph or number. So hopefully you appreciate that. I'm sure you had some great sessions this morning. We're here to kind of set up the next couple of days. And while we could easily speak about diversity and inclusion and the changing face of Alberta, we're going to speak more about what we're seeing with Alberta consumers as we move forward in the future. Now, typically, when we do these sorts of things, the future it involves a time frame of maybe 1 year to 3 years to 5 years, maybe even 10 years. But in this world, the future is next week, next month, maybe next quarter. So as you plan, we want to make sure that that how you think about when you plan, how the future is changing. So back in May or June of this year, or as like we like to say, about 7 dog years ago, we helped organize a longitudinal study of Albertans and their interactions with the experience economy. So that's arts, culture, sports, recreation. And much of the information really that we're going to show should appeal to any kind of organization beyond those, be it profit, not-for-profits, charities, and anything else. We knew that organizations in Alberta at the time of the pandemic, when it was starting, were relying on information from other Canadian sources, other European sources, American sources, and they weren't just getting their information about Alberta, which is kind of different. So we approached these organizations, and together we partnered with the 6-wave study, longitudinal. The first 3 waves have been completed to really help organizations of any variety make their, navigate the world that it is now, the future, next quarter. And so we like to think that these organizations are kind of the soul of the new economy. If it wasn't for them, any organization, and by the way, I should mention all this information is free to anybody who wants it. We'll show you how later. But thanks to these organizations, they were able to help us come through this to really help Alberta organizations move forward. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kim, and we're going to talk about some of the slides, some of the trends we've seen over the last little while. Very big picture.
Thank you, Tim. So the first thing that we really want to look at, and that we think organizations should consider as you think about how to plan, how to react as a business leader, is about having a pulse on what customers and audiences are thinking and feeling and doing. And this is true regardless of what sector that you are working in. One thing that we know for sure, and the data has told us, is that attitudes, perceptions, interests are all shifting, or have been since the last 7, 8, 9 months. That's probably no surprise to anyone. And now some of the attitudes that we're seeing emerging that are really related to this pandemic. First of all, there is a general sense of wariness in the province right now. The idea that the vast majority of Albertans are still not comfortable in large group settings. I don't think, again, that will surprise anyone. So a general sense of wariness exists, but there's also some resignation, some acceptance about how things need to be done right now. And one area is just the growing acceptance of mask wearing. We've seen a steady increase in this metric over the last 6 months. Over 2/3 of the province now agree that, yes, I'm comfortable wearing a mask if it means I can go back to doing some of the things that I want to do. So those are some interesting findings. But of course, we can't ignore this bubbling frustration that we're feeling within the province. And it is primarily economic in nature. 60% of Albertans say that economic uncertainty is a bigger problem in Alberta than COVID. So there's no question this is a global issue, the idea that we're grappling with the economic results of this pandemic combined with the pandemic itself. But it's more acutely felt in Alberta. We really know that. So we've been grappling with this dual challenge, maybe a little bit more so than other jurisdictions. And so it impacts the policy decisions that you're seeing in this province. It also means that when you see resistance to public health measures or anger or frustration with your neighbors, your coworkers, anyone that you might interact with, it doesn't necessarily mean that these people are philosophically out of touch with other parts of the province. These are groups of Albertans that are often disproportionately impacted economically. So they have a strong desire to return to normal, to have a job, to get back to the things that they could do before. That makes a lot of sense when you think about it from a different perspective. And so they might also be frustrated with some of the things that they're seeing from other people. And so it's just a reminder that there is a real complexity to some of the attitudes and perceptions within the province on issues surrounding COVID, and a reminder how, regardless of where you sit, that we're all really struggling to make sense of this and to kind of navigate the world that we live in. So that brings us to the point that staying put is not an option for organizations. And this might seem obvious in many respects. But we know too many organizations that are really just crossing their fingers, hoping to power through, return to things in the coming months and just kind of get back to it, get back to normal. And the reality is, and again, this is a phrase that we've probably all heard too many times, but we're in unique circumstances. Our city and our province and other jurisdictions, we have experience working through recessionary environments. But not necessarily recession plus pandemic. There's no template that exists for this. It's really, there is no return to normal. And we know that Albertans have low expectations that things are going to be returning back to normal and that they can go back to the way things were. The data is telling us that. So that tells us as organizations and business leaders that we need to expect to do things differently. And this applies to all sectors, whether you're in the experience sector, an event provider, nonprofit, arts, culture, retailer, across the board. Albertans are leaving old activities behind right now. And that's partly because they're not available in some cases, and partly because we've been given this opportunity to try new things. One of our waves in the data, we saw that over 1/3 of Albertans have replaced old activities with completely new ones. And the challenge for a lot of organizations is there's no promise that they're going to go back to old options should they become available. So it really is a whole new world out there. So what does that mean for organizations? Well, certainly it reminds us that we need to go back to our core. So ask yourself in your organization, why are you here in the first place? What do you offer? What are the benefits that you provide to your customers, to your employees? This is what's going to anchor you. And if you can stay true to that core and your reason for being, then you are in a better position to be nimble and to think of innovative ways to reach your customers or your audiences. Which brings us to the notion of capitalizing on the desire for shared experience. And what do I mean by that? So, well, if we know what Albertans are thinking and feeling, we would then want to shift our attention to the behaviors of Albertans, or more specifically, what are we doing now and what do we want to be doing? And this gives us a lot of information in order to adjust and to innovate as organizations. Now, the ability to do things where we can be social has been seriously stunted. And we know from this research and from much other research that we've done that the desire to be with others and to be social is a core motivation for doing things. So the desire to be social is still showing up, no surprise. It's just in smaller and more intimate forms. People want social experiences, but just within small groups. The comfort is not there. So the days of large concerts or high-fiving at Flames games, those are really on pause for right now because, again, the comfort level is not there for the vast majority of Albertans. Experiences or events that are outdoors, are flexible in their timing, are easy, give people the chance to be with the people they know, often their cohort, however they define that, are the kind of ideas or experiences that are going to get a lot more traction right now. So satisfying those main motivations we have for being with other people, but in a really comfortable way. Now, if organizations are going to balance those needs of social, but then also safety and fun, they really need to be nimble. So this takes us back to the idea and the importance of innovation and continuously reinventing what you can offer many times over. And the obvious question when it comes to innovation, especially in this environment, is what's the place or the role for digital? The interesting thing is there is a ceiling to digital engagement, absolutely. And organizations can no longer just throw something on Zoom and call it a day. That was kind of a placeholder in the early days of this pandemic, and we kind of hit our Zoom fatigue. That was a reactive approach to digital engagement, and we're not there anymore. There is a ceiling to digital because it's an inherently limited option. You simply can't replicate in-person experience. Having said that, there is absolutely a role, and there's a lot of organizations, and Tim will speak to that are doing this successfully, either supplementing or showcasing a new offering. Think about hybrid offerings like what the NHL and the NBA did in the early days of this. It was a live in-person offering, and they delivered it digitally. And so there were some interesting takeaways that organizations can look to when it comes to digital offerings. So that's where you need to be thinking. Tim?
Thanks, Kim. Yeah, and as Kim said, we have a client in the States that is in the live entertainment business. So of course they took quite a hit. And what they've managed to do is they firmly believe that in the next little while the live entertainment business will come back. But they had to do something short term. So they created a virtual experience. But what they've decided to do is not do one or the other, but to do both. So they've taken the virtual experience, and it's going to be a global virtual conference of sorts, and it'll be a second wave of revenue for them. So they've actually taken this terrible hit that they've got, and they think they're going to double or triple their revenue on their business, which they wouldn't have thought about earlier. Locally, however, what we've really noticed in the data from the three waves is a change in what people are telling us about marketing. And frankly, they're listening. They've kind of moved from a position of, hey, we're all in this together, or we're here for you, I guess was the term that people were getting sick of. And that's kind of morphed into, are you sure you should be advertising that? Like, is that a little offside? And now it's morphed into, please tell me what you're doing. And we're finding that the fatigue is going away, and people want to know what's happening. They want to hear marketing and advertising and communications about whether you have a service to offer, whether you are looking for donations, whether you're trying to improve your businesses in any way. And what's interesting, though, and so we see a big opportunity here for organizations. It's a little bit quiet in the media space right now. There is big opportunity to raise your voice and your organization's voice to make a difference. The problem is Alberta organizations are typically chronic underspenders in advertising. I'll give you an example. There was a Deloitte study out of the States or across North America where technology companies spend roughly 20% of their top line revenue on marketing. Pharmaceutical companies spend about 15% of their top line revenue on marketing. Energy something we should know about, spends about 4% of their top line budget on marketing. And then you start wondering why energy is getting beat up a bit. And I would challenge, what's your organization doing? Do the math on the back of your envelope. And I suspect, given it's Alberta, you're somewhere between less than half of 1% and 2% of your top line budget is marketing. So what would happen if you doubled your market or your spend? What would happen if your creative got better? What would happen to your message to come back in this pandemic? And I know it's difficult, but there is a real opportunity for somebody who steps in and ramps up their marketing game. So if you want to make an impact, I think it's a good opportunity right now to start doing that, whatever sector or organization you're in. Finally, and I will just flip to the our last slide, quote unquote, we're in this together. And what we mean by that is, Alberta, as Kim was saying earlier, has gone through a really interesting time. There were floods in Calgary in 2013. There were floods in Fort McMurray. There was fires in Fort McMurray. There was fires in Slave Lake. There is the low energy price. And there is this sense, there's a feeling a bit of us and them, us Alberta versus them, the rest of Alberta. There's also a bit of a tension within Alberta, not unlike the United States in the latest election, where what we saw there, and everyone should be aware of it, is the rural voters were very different than the urban voters. And we've seen that for years in Alberta, and it's getting worse, where the urban voter is a little bit more left of center, if you want to use old terms, and urban voters or rural voters are a little bit more right of center, if you want to use those terms. It's going to continue to get worse. So where is the common ground? And I think there is an ability here with COVID and the way people see this is that there is a sense that they want to rebuild community. Some of the things we're seeing is over 80% of Albertans will consider a vaccination in order to protect those around them. To us, that's kind of community building. It's not about them. It's not about what is in it for them only. It's about what's best for the community. And so with respect to that, there's less personal concern and risks around pausing activities and much more around what can we do together. So marketing wise, and from your standpoints, it's what messages work. Let's take vaccines and vaccinations. As I heard this weekend, vaccines don't save people, vaccinations save people. But what messages in Alberta would you use now to improve, to get people on board? Maybe it's, get a vaccination to bring the economy back. That's something people could buy into. Get a vaccination to protect your community. It's things we haven't necessarily heard before. So again, it becomes, we're in this together. How can we make it together without being, touchy-feely? What can we do to make this province stronger, better, and move forward in the new economy? Kim?
All right, thanks, Tim. So just to wrap up here, if you'd like to learn more about the specific research that we are talking about, you can certainly head to our website. You have the ability to sign up as a subscriber, and we'll give you all of the latest releases as they come available. But all previous iterations of this and all of the data and the reporting is freely available. As Tim mentioned, this is a free open resource, and obviously with our background, we really believe in fact-based decision-making. But I think more than ever, this is the time for that. Tensions and emotions can run high, and this is a really challenging environment. And this is just one tool we're really proud of that we think can help organizations just navigate to the best of their ability some of these unusual circumstances. And so with that, I will add too that you can certainly reach out to myself and to Tim directly if you have any questions. We are happy to answer them. And with that, I will turn it over to Niketi to close out the day for today. Thank you.
All right. Wow. Thank you so much, Tim and Kim. That piece of research is absolutely fantastic. Thanks for checking the pulse of Albertans. And I'm glad that it's an open resource and that we can all access it. That's really, really phenomenal. Thank you very much. And it's interesting that even with everything that's going on, you found that people still want to be social. We are social human beings. And you're right in that even though that there are differences in terms of our worldviews and our perspectives, the one commonality that I think we all have is how do we build or rebuild our community? How do we do this together? And so really, really great work there. And thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate you and appreciate the work that you're doing. And so if you want to continue these conversations that we are having, please visit our Next Steps webpage. And we have it here on the screen, and you can see some of the organizations that you can read upon and find out more information about. And these organizations also have some resources that you can take advantage of. And yeah, so what a wonderful and insightful day that we have had so far. I have most certainly learned a lot. And thank you very much, everyone, for your input and for your engagement. So if you have any feedback, anything we can improve on over the next 4 days, leave it in the comments box. And for day 2, we have another fantastic lineup for you. It's going to be on resilience and shared prosperity through employment and education. And we're going to kickstart that day with a keynote from Janet Lane from Canada West Foundation, and we're going to have we're going to be having some roundtable discussions, and we'll be having the following discussions. So first of all, we'll be looking at building a resilient and adaptive workforce through micro-credentialing, corporate reskilling, avoiding obsolescence and avoiding resilience and building resilience, supporting and empowering families facing impediments to employment and in education, mentorship and leadership, developing and equipping a new and diverse generation of leaders, building adaptive and resilient cities, developing the skills for a resilient economy. And finally, we're going to also have the gig economy thriving and surviving through it all. And you do not want to miss it at all. It follows on nicely from today's session on diversity and inclusion. And so before we conclude for the day, I can't believe it's almost over. Wow. We want to say a big thank you to all of our speakers, our sponsors, Elders Wallace and Florence, and to you for showing up and engaging in this important conversation. It takes a village to put all of this together. And we had a lot of help from these people in putting together today's program. So thank you. Thank you very much. And you can see our list of thank yous there. And we're officially done for the day. And I'd also like to personally thank Mark and Donna, who are our IT and production specialists here. I've been with them this morning and they are absolutely phenomenal. Thank you, guys. And we're officially done for the day. Please click on the link below to join. Please click on the link below to join the meeting tomorrow and join the virtual networking lunch. So if you're a student, you're invited to join the student-only speaker question and answer session hosted by Ambrose University and Mount Royal University. And you'll find the session in the agenda tab. So thank you very much, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow. It's going to be 8:30. Where? It's going to be right here on Swapcard. And the theme is going to be centered around employment and education. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.